If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Greetings, one and all. It is Thursday. Thursday. Oh my Lord, what is wrong with me tonight? I almost said this morning. Man, I'm just tripping over my own words tonight. Trey has unleashed the tribbles on my show. That son of a bitch. Speaking of Trey, there's a whole bunch of fires in my chat from Max World Entertainment. Guys,
careful with the fire. We're talking alcohol. No explosions here.
Yeah, no matches, no lighters. Back away slowly. Good evening, everybody. Mark the Infinitely Tired. Trey from Max World Entertainment. Yes, hashtag Trey's Tribbles. It's all his fault. Purple Lady, one of my Valkyries, is here. Good evening, Purple Lady. Kathia Star, Josh from Rebecca Momini. Jedi Bill 797, Dave G. Man, I'm just tripping over my own words tonight. I almost said JD.
Started the party early.
Yes. Oh, I started the party early. Dave G. Sound. Wow. Lady Mist. Hello, the lovely guardian of the void. Hello, Lady Mist. Chris Persia. Adega. Yes, number one sci-fi parrot head. Mark the Infinitely Tired. Guys, how is everybody doing tonight? I think you have a new Patreon backer. Dude, thank you, Josh and Rebecca Momini. Thank you guys so very much. Mr. CCDV, if you're out there, he signed up too. Thank you guys. Thank you so very much. You guys keep this channel going. You keep it kicking. You keep us coming back. You keep me coming back. Thank you guys so very much.
Think about it. When you patron for this guy, get it the right direction. You are supporting yourselves and the whole community. I mean, really, where else are you going to find someone with as much clout, as much kindness, and let you get on his show just about anytime he says, well, anytime you want, basically. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Now pay me my $20, dude.
Yeah. It's in the mail. Oh, dude. And you know what? Guys, this guy has one of the most wonderful books. I am reading his book for the second time now, and I absolutely love the beginning of your book. So before we get into wine, women, and more drink, man, the beginning of Evolution is so freaking awesome because you're like, okay, you meet this guy and you're starting to learn a little bit about this guy, and bam, it's like off to the races. It's like you don't even have time to breathe a little bit with this guy before it's like, holy shit, this is going on and that's going on and he doesn't know what's going on, and it's like, damn, what is going on? And the more you delve into the book, the more it explains. And I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
Oh, and Robert Pearson says, Loki, your new outro is going to be longer than your shows. It's just a little past 2 minutes right now. It's just a little past 2 minutes. So I know that if I have to go in at some point, because I have the template saved now. So I'm going to have to rebuild it every single time. I just have to open it up, go in, and figure out, okay, what do I want for this person, add it in, and do a title now. So it's a lot easier than the 6 hours I spent making it the first time. Because I spent about half a day making that first one, trying to figure out who. And Lori was the hardest one, man. Lori Roberts was the hardest one. And it was because I was thinking Lori Roberts. I was thinking blonde woman, New York, trying to get this blonde woman, New York thing. And I took something from Taxi Driver, and I took something from this other movie. I was like, man, this is not working. This is not gelling. And then The Destructor.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Don't worry about New York or any of that. Go with The Destructor, and you've got Sarah Connor, working out in that insane asylum, and she turns around and she's like, and that's the look I would expect if she got a hold of Mexican Iron Man. Like, oh, you
Just
dead, buddy.
where's the Mexican?
Yeah, where's
Where's he?
Oh, and Lady Mist says she likes your Lady Mist. Yours was probably the second most difficult, because I was like, okay, I need something that's really good with a lady, and I was looking through old night movies, like, different movies, and I was like, none of this really gels. And then I thought about A Knight's Tale. And I was like, man, there's that scene when they're in the ballroom and they're dancing, and she's like, bow, now, now. And I was like, oh, that'd be perfect. That would be perfect for Lady Mist. And I honestly, the man sitting right next to me was the easiest, because I already knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to see Doc Holliday spinning that coin on it. Yeah, spinning that coin on his knuckles like, isn't that a daisy? And so I already knew. I already had that keyed up and ready to go. Guys, thank you. Thank you, because believe me, the whole time I was doing that, I had a smile on my face thinking about, well, who am I going to use here and who am I going to use here? And yeah, guys, it's absolute blast getting to do that. Absolute blast. It is an honor getting to. Don't make mine the Muppets. Josh Rebecca Mahoney, my name is going to be rebranded soon. Okay, I won't. I won't. And guys, if you are waiting for your update in the credits, I update every weekend. So as soon as the weekend hits, I update. So if you are waiting, fear not, I'm on it. Fear not. So we are going to talk about alcohol today. We're going to talk about booze, and this is something I've really been looking forward to, because we're going to go old school, guys. We are going to go old school. Do you want to start out with yours, or do you want me to start out with mine?
I'm going to do a little bit of history, because people are going to wonder, why is Adega talking about alcohol when he doesn't drink? And I got into, because a lot of people think that fire water came to the Native Americans from Europe. And I didn't realize that we actually had it here before then. But ours is very mild, made out of corn. Some of you know what a prickly pear is. Some of it was made out of barrel cactus. But it was only at its strongest 2 to 4% alcohol. And there's a lot of excuses. And of course, I'm a realist. I deal with facts, science, everything. I don't deal with people's philosophies and wannabe history or things that they make up. There's something about the genetic code that makes natives addictive to everything. When I visited Res a couple times, you'd see these guys are just laying out in the field, just passed out, stoned off their gourd. And it's real easy for them to get addicted. So with that, first off, yes, Native Americans did have alcohol beforehand. And we had it for, at least 2,000 years. The Aztecs, the Mayans, all of them. They all had something, and usually it was based in corn. But starting in that area, before we go to the more modern one, I wanted to get into tequila.
Oh, tequila.
Yes, agave. Some of you use that stuff for a substitute sweetener, and it is kind of sweet, but they found out they were kind of using it a little bit before the conquistadors showed up. The conquistadors came up and they ran out of brandy. And so they decided, well, these Aztecs are using this plant, so let's start making it out of that. Hence, tequila was born. So it is kind of like a cactus plant. They keep it old school. The way they harvest the plant is still done the original way with these koa machete type things. Trim it down, roast the stuff, and the fermentation process is where the difference comes in, just like about every alcohol. You get the clear tequila, and that means it has had a very short fermentation process. Sometimes it's artificially fermented. They use an acid instead of actually letting it age with the different bacteria. The higher quality is the ones that have been aged in oak barrels and go up to 2 to 3 years of aging. And for some of you who may have that, well, I always think of Poltergeist, and the dad is watching over the family at night and he's drinking tequila and he swallows the worm.
Yep.
That is a worm or a larva of a butterfly, and it isn't typical for tequila, for those of you who drink it. It's just the one brand that does it. And I guess in Mexico, they use things like scorpions in it. Some of
Yep.
you who've been down there, they'll know more about it. But I thought that was just absolutely fascinating. The country has lobbied kind of like what France did, where champagne is only from Champagne. Tequila, real tequila, is only from Mexico. They have very stringent rules on it. They have certain classifications on it. And they even tried to make it where it was only bottled in Mexico, but that didn't pass. So there you go, tequila. Any of you want to describe it, what it does to you, how it tastes and all that? That's totally up to you, because like I said, I've never tried it. And I've heard from people that, one, it is pretty good. People like it, and other people say that stuff's nasty. And I would imagine it has to deal with whether you're getting the clear or the amber stuff, or which company, because there's like 2,000 companies that make it down in Mexico.
Dave G. Sound says snakes too. Yeah, there are ones that put snakes in it.
I never heard of that. Hopefully they're not toxic snakes, but then again, some of it has both ethanol and methanol in it, and you know, some of you that could cause blindness with the ethanol. The methanol is okay, but the ethanol, you don't want too much of that, and there's a little bit in there. So good luck to you who want to drink the stuff. But
and Dal says Aruno makes a very good point, and this is a very good point. She handles vodka much better than tequila. Here's the weird thing with me, and I know this will probably trip some people out. I cannot drink tequila by itself. I will go completely insane. You think I'm insane on this show? You think I've ever been sane when I'm mad at anybody? You have not seen Loki on straight tequila. If I mix that with triple sec, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll get funny if I mix it with triple sec.
I know what I'm getting Loki for Christmas.
If I have it plain, God help you all. Oh,
we need to experience it once on a movie night.
Oh man,
Get to the good stuff. We'll see what it does to you.
I won't have a rig left in the morning. I won't have a way to do the morning show, in the morning. There's no way I'll be able to do it. And
there we go. We got some fires for the theory. We're going to do it.
Robert Pearson brings up absinthe. Probably explains my mental state. I have tried that, and I would rather do a whole bottle of sake than do that again.
And that's what I'm going to bring up too, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I heard absinthe is nasty.
Yes. I had that. If anybody has ever heard of the original recipe to Romulan ale, it has that in it, along with whole grain alcohol, along with an energy drink, and along with blue Curaçao. And let me tell you something. You want to talk about it? It's called a cloaked bird of prey Romulan ale, because it's got the absinthe in it. And yeah, you feel like you could just cloak and walk through a whole crowd of people and nobody'd ever see you. It's trippy as hell. But yeah, that absinthe is mean stuff. Mean stuff.
Chef says he likes it. And that kind of makes The Witcher 3 the add-on where he says absinthe, the drink of artists everywhere.
Yes.
And of course, chefs are artists in my book.
Chase the green fairy. Yeah. Oh, I prefer vodka. But I'm not going to talk about vodka. Of course, I had to do honey mead, guys. I had to do honey mead. I had to look into honey mead. And I want to tell you something. Nothing goes back as far as honeymead. This shit has been dated back to 10,000 years ago. Okay? They found casks in China that have the molecules and all that shit of honeymead in it from 10,000 years ago. That's like that makes it some of the oldest alcohol you're ever going to come across. It's honeymead. And the way they make it is just like wine. You can even make sparkling, naturally sparkling honeymead. It can be sweet. It can be dry. It can be sweet and dry. It all depends on how it's made. And one of the oldest ways to do it is you get a cask and you let it collect rainwater. They say if you don't have rainwater to collect, you can boil spring water and put it in this cask. And then you add the honey and you let it sit. And there's a special top to it with a hole. And you let it sit there for 40 days. 40 damn days. And the honey ferments. As it goes along, the honey ferments. And you get honeymead. And it all depends on how you make it. Dial Cesarumo, honeymead is sweet, and that's why it's so dangerous. It's so good, tastes so great that you just drink more and more. The way that was made, the way they describe that being made, is the way I learned how to make apple shine. You re-ferment with apples and apple juice and use the sugar in that, and you use a whole grain alcohol as a base. Which the way it was explained to me, and then you let it sit there for a month and you let it do its work. But when I tasted that for the very first time, and we're talking about homemade shit here, I did not taste it. It tasted like apple juice. So I drank the cup. He's laughing. I drank.
Loki got pissed.
And I went to get up to get more. And my ass fell right back down in my chair. Not something for the faint of heart. And I've heard of all kinds of stuff going bad. I've heard about all kinds of stuff going bad. And the way I was taught was take a spoonful, light it. If the flame is yellow, you're good. If that flame, if you can barely see that flame, if it's like a light blue, pour that shit out.
You chemists will know why.
Yeah. Because it's going to kill you.
Now that's strange because honey straight with water to me doesn't seem like it would ferment.
No.
What is in it that, because honey can keep for years without doing that.
See if I can pull back.
It will crystallize if you just keep honey straight, and then adding pure water, there has to be something that gets into it.
Let's see. Take rainwater kept for several days and mix. It says Sectarius, which is your honey, and you want a pound per liter. It's a lot of damn honey.
Right.
For the weaker mead, mix a Sectarius of water with 9 ounces of honey. The whole must be exposed to the sun for 40 days and then left on a shelf near a fire. If you have no rainwater, boil spring water and use that. That's all you do.
It's got to be getting something through the hole. That's the only thing I could think of.
It's the sugar.
See, when I was a kid, I raised bees. I've had 20-year-old honey, just straight honey, where you had to decrystallize it in order to use it. It turns dark amber, but hopefully that wasn't alcohol. It shouldn't have been alcoholic at all. I mean, I don't see. There's got to be some type of external bacteria, maybe some bugs or something to get into it, because on its own, it shouldn't do that. So there's something there. There's something there that gets in and does its magic.
Chef Silla says, yeah, the yeast pulls the sugar and makes it ferment. You need a yeast to transform the sugar into alcohol.
Well, I know there's yeast can do it, but his recipe, I didn't see or hear any
No.
yeast in it.
No,
So
it doesn't say to use any yeast whatsoever.
now,
Mix.
see, with one I wanted to do, we'll get into it. It kind of makes sense, but this one, it just there's somehow it's getting contaminated with something, whether it's a bacteria or yeast, something that's going to break down that sugar.
Yeah, and maybe it has something to do with the fire. You need to put it on a shelf near a fire. And that's all it is. Rainwater with a sectarius of water mixed with a pound of honey. For weaker mead, a sectarius with 9 ounces of honey. And you store it for 30 days with a hole and make sure the sun, it's got to be something to do with the sun and the air. Yeast gets in the jar, Cathia says. Yeast will get into the jar.
Okay, I believe it. I mean, it has to, just coming from the logical side of things. But, oh, wise one, you must tell us. What communities developed honey mead? Because it couldn't have been just China. How many different places had it?
You've got China, you've got Egypt, you've got Scandinavia, which, of course, Vikings, you've got Europe, almost all across Europe and what you used to call Rus, which is Russia. You name it, it was everywhere on that continent. Everywhere on the European continent. So from Russia and Asia to Europe to what would at one time be Great Britain, everywhere there had honey mead.
It must have been like chocolate. Man, try this. And they just spread it across the continent.
All the Celts, Lady Q, yes, all the Celts. And a funny story, I won't go into too much detail because that's more of my past that I don't really want to, I absolutely hate talking about, and I did not do this, just so that is very clear. I saw this. I did not do this. Orange peels, of all things. Orange peels, water, and old socks.
I believe it.
Do not try that at home because the person who drank that shit looked like he threw up every bit of his insides. His stomach, his intestines, his liver, his lungs all look like they came out when he vomited. So do not ever try that. It is the worst thing I've ever seen. And I was like, what did he drink? And there's these moldy old socks with orange shavings and no guys, no, but yeah, old socks, shit, that's right, old socks, shit, yeah. So no, that was like code blue, code blue. Oh, shit.
My dad told me they used to make something similar to that in World War II. Because he was on a Navy vessel, some of you know, and they took the potato peelings from the chef, and they would steal some raisins because those weren't rationed out. Potato peelings they were just going to throw away, and they made a type of vodka, I guess, out of that.
Yeah.
In big barrels, and he said the stuff was nasty, but man, they drank it up.
Yep. Yeah, and Jeff Beat said mead reminds me of the 13th Warrior. That is what's in the 13th Warrior. Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my brothers and my sisters and my mother. Lo, there I can't even remember the whole thing anymore. The times of my people back to the beginning. Lo, they do call to me. They bid me take my place among them. In the halls of Valhalla, where the dead will live forever. Yes, that is in the 13th Warrior. It's actually one of my favorite movies that was completely panned by critics, and they said it was an absolute giant furball. I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie because it takes someone that isn't Viking, it takes someone that has nothing to do with Vikings and puts him in that situation, and the only thing that gets him through it is the fact that he knows so much about languages. He watches them. Adega, you love this. He sits there and he watches them talk every night as they're on this journey. And he eventually starts to pick up words and pick up things they're saying. And this one guy's like, finally, after like a month of this one guy's like, I bet you she looked like that one's mother after she got bent over by his father. And he looks at him and he's like, my mother was a pure woman. And he says it in their language, dude. And it's like they're gonna gank him. How long have you understood our language? It's like, we've been sitting here talking shit about you for the past month. How long? How did you learn our language? He's like, I listened. And that's when their leader's like, huh. And is like, he learned our language just sitting there every night listening to us talk. And he starts talking, their leader starts talking to him and starts learning from him. And that friendship and bond starts to build between them. And he's like, he turns into like their little brother. You know, he's like the little brother that, because he's an Arab. And so they constantly make fun of him. They they talk shit about his horse when they started the journey because he's got a small little fast horse. And after he does that, comes out and says, you know, hey, yes, I can speak your language. The same guy that talked about his mother was like, only an Arab. And he, of course, the Arab finished. He's like, would bring a dog to war. And he gets on his horse, dude, and he runs that son of a bitch around and he like jumps over that guy on his horse already and knocks him off his horse. And the leader's like, the dog can jump. I mean, if you guys have never seen it, go watch The 13th Warrior. I absolutely love that movie. And anybody who was like, oh, that was such a shitty movie. No, that was great.
Now, see, you can use squirrel on some people. You can use pop culture on Loki to, whew, off we go.
Yes. Anything. 13th Warrior. I get to talk about 13th Warrior. I really liked how they did that movie, and there's a lot more to it than just that. The adventure they go on, the enemy they have to fight, it's absolutely epic when you find out what this stuff is, because the Vikings are scared to death of it, and you got to think, what the hell would a Viking be scared of? What would frighten a Viking so bad that they don't even want to be there fighting it? And the way
monsters.
Something 13th Warrior watch party. Yes, Robert Pearson. I would absolutely love that. Yes,
We need to start making a list.
Yep. I don't even know what we're gonna do after Hannibal or Silence of the Lambs. So that might be something. I don't know.
I'm still up for the Titans one of these days.
Oh, that's what we're gonna do. Clash of the Titans, original Clash of the Titans. Okay. Let me write that down. We're going to do Clash of the Titans after Silence of the Lambs, and we'll do we'll do 13th Warrior after that. Clash of the Titans and 13th Warrior.
See, I'm kind of like Doll. She says that she listens and she hears the language. I'm glad you brought that up. Once upon a time I could speak Spanish without an accent, Japanese fairly well, and then I tried to learn Sanskrit and written Hebrew, but didn't go far. I mean, I've forgotten all of it.
Yeah, Chris Persia, the fire worm. Yeah, absolutely badass. Put it to a vote, Loki. Okay, if you guys want to vote for it, I will. If you guys want to vote, I'll come up with a couple of different movies, and we'll put it to a vote. I have absolutely no problem doing that. I don't have to pick them every time. So I planned on doing that originally, and then just people come to me with good movies, and I'm like, yes, let's do that. So many good ideas.
Distracted again. Off he goes.
Yes, off I go. Release the Kraken. I release the Kraken. Okay, so honey mead, we've got it everywhere. Like me and Adega were saying, it's everywhere. So you can't really spit in any direction and not have it in the old world. And of course, now it's everywhere. You go to any Renaissance festival, you're either going to get a really good mead, honey mead, or you're going to get a really shitty honey mead. I like sweet. So I like the sparkling sweet honey mead. Naturally sparkling honey mead. I don't like the artificial bullshit that they make in a damn lab. I want something that was put in a cask and that sat there for a year and been perfected before I drink it.
If I remember right, wasn't Kathia was saying that the fake stuff, they add corn syrup to it.
Yep.
That you get at these Renaissance festivals.
You can tell. You can tell. I went to a Renaissance festival every year until I was in my early 30s. So I'd been going to them. I went to the Strawberry Festival. I went to the Renaissance Festival. I went to there was another one in the DFW area, Scarborough Fair. Every year, bam, bam, bam. I was always going. I always dressed up. I always had fun. I always drank the honey mead. And one year at Scarborough, I was like, "What in the hell is this?" And I found out they didn't have the same guy come back. And this guy had like 100-year-old casks that he made this shit in. And they didn't have him come back. I was like, why? Oh, well, we're going with this new guy. Well, of course, it's a lot cheaper and it's
Right.
made in some damn factory.
Right.
It's nasty. It's absolutely nasty. And you can totally tell the difference. You can totally tell the difference. It's night and day difference. If you can find a good one in a bottle, I've heard of one. I haven't tried it because I don't drink like I used to at all, and that is Viking Blood, I think is what it's called, and that's still made in those casks. They just bottle it after so many years. So good stuff.
Awesome.
It is nasty. You are right. Yes, Kathia. No. There's real honey mead, and then there's the shit they make in a factory, and that's not honey mead. They might call it that, but that's not what it is. So you've got sake. Sake.
Yeah, it's not as old as the other ones. This one's only it's less than, well, it's about 1,300 years old. Originated in Japan, and this is where that nasty bit of fermentation comes in. They figured out, and this is really weird, that when they would chew rice and spit it out and let the amylase from their spit and the air hit, that it would ferment into this sake stuff. And, I used to think of Japan as always being this, more of a sophisticated society in a lot of ways. Other ways, they're pretty barbaric, of course, but in that regard, I was stunned. That's something I would think that would come out of Africa or, even in Native America, where the southern anyway, and Central America, some of the backwoods of the Amazon, where these people do some really strange things. But yeah, that's how it started. They were fermenting it from their own spit, and yeah, pretty disgusting stuff. There was something I was going to read here. Let's find it real quick. Now, I hear it's hard to drink.
See, you know what? Sammy just told me the other day when we were talking on a live stream that if you ice it, if you have it iced, like put it in your freezer. I was always told you drink it 98.4 degrees. Robert Pearson. That is how I have always drinking it. 98.4 degrees. That is supposed to be the bam, bam, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am temperature of sake. I have never heard of anyone putting it in the freezer before. And I have a bottle, isn't opened, up on my fridge right now, and I'm going to try that.
Well, it's like one of the most spirits that I found. Another thing that I learned that there is very few spirits, once they're bottled, will continue to improve. Wine does, but most of them don't. So that bottle can sit for a long time, so long as you don't change the temperature too great or add air to it.
Yep.
What was it I was going to read? I'll find it. Either way, there's a long history. It's amazing how the Japanese go into tradition.
Yeah.
They had each period they would change just a little bit of how they would do it, and the government started taking over and said if it's sake, it can only be made in, just like with tequila, it could only be made in certain places in Mexico to be considered tequila. There were only certain families. Jose Cuervo, going back to tequila, they were one of the original families that was set up by the government to do this. They eventually started coming into standards to where instead of using spit, they would be able to ferment it. I I think this is what I wanted to read. Let me go ahead. In the early Edo period, sake was fermented 5 times a year. That's all they did it because it was tradition. When sake breweries found it was best to undertake the fermentation process in winter, taking advantage of the low temperature for the fermentation. This is the reason why even today most sake is fermented during the winter seasons. And it amazes me because I have patients over the years that would have these small distilleries. They'd brew their own beer and stuff, and they'd talk about, well, this yeast will do this, and this yeast will do that. And it just amazes me how little tiny things will change it. And apparently with the sake, they really notice if you brew it in the summer or you brew it in the winter, there's a big difference. And it makes for a huge price difference as well. Oh, that was another thing about tequila. The most expensive bottle, give some kind of prize for someone who could figure out within the next 5 seconds the approximate price of the most expensive tequila bottle went for. I'll give you 8 seconds because chat delay.
Oh, can I do this too?
Sure.
$1,000.
No. It's gone. $225,000 sold.
My
15 years ago. Yep. It was in a gold and silver bottle.
wow. Lady Q said 2.6 million.
No,
Rebecca, 10,000. Yeah.
$225,000.
And $25,000.
Yeah, no prizes for me.
Wow.
Like I could have put your name in one of my books.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You brought up. I want to say this real quick because I always found this interesting. My first year at college, that's one of the things I wanted to study was Peru, Japan. And have you ever heard of the art of ransom?
I think so. Yes.
What the idea is that you send one of your newborn children over to a warring faction, and they send a newborn child over to your faction. Now you each raise that child like they're your own, while always letting them know that they are not. Basically, you are Lord Adega's kid, and Lord Adega has my kid, and never the two shall meet or cross paths. That way, it kept the families from going to war and killing each other.
Right.
It's like, well, we must have assurances that you will never attack us. Well, here is my son, and you give me your son, and we have peace as long as both our children live. And if for some reason you did go to war, they just chop you up. They just chop their asses up and kill them. There wasn't any, we're going to let you commit suicide or commit harakiri or anything like that. They just chop them up and send them back where they came from. So imagine raising a boy his entire life, and something happens and war breaks out, and basically, well, okay, we're going to cut you up and send you back to daddy in little pieces. Does that sound civilized?
Like I said, in a lot of ways, I like their society, but there are some quirks. That just happens to be one of them.
Because I know if I raised a kid like that, and basically they're raised as royalty. So you raise them with your other children. You raise them up with your other children, and they grow up and they're like your own kids. So you've raised them. But then, if something happens, you. And I couldn't do that. But that was their ways. That was their ways.
There's no way.
That was their ways. It was.
But that's the game of royalty. The
ancient nuclear deterrent, Robert Pearson says.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
And Kathia Star, yes, ma'am. Getting dismembered was a sign of extreme dishonor. Yeah, you got chopped up in little bits. That was a bad one. The only time it was accepted is if you were committing harakiri and someone cut your head off. That was like, okay, you have committed the suicide rite. Now I will quickly end your suffering. That was acceptable. Beheading. That was it. Anything else, extreme dishonor.
I got into a lot of Japanese culture when I was going to school for chiropractic. He's still one of my good friends. I need to contact him. It's been a few years, but um, he was a fifth dan Shorinji Kempo master, and he taught me one-on-one for 4 years. I learned to speak some of the language. I learned to cook from his wife some things. His dad, who was deathly afraid of America because of the war, wouldn't come to his graduation, which was it was hard on him. But stiff upper lip. You're Japanese, you can deal with this. But his dad liked me, and he sent over. He was a calligrapher, so I have these writings on rice paper,
Oh,
and I have
yes.
some of their gods written out on rice paper. They're just beautiful. I had to frame them.
Guys, if you've never seen that, look up Japanese calligraphy art. That is some of the most beautiful writing you will ever see in your entire life. Please continue.
His dad was such a good master that he did all of for the local schools when they graduated. He would hand do all of their diplomas. So I was very fortunate that some of them he put on cardboard, and he would draw and then overlaid the corners, the border with a gold foil. And I have hope, beauty. There's a door dragon that's supposed to protect your home. There's several of them, but like I said, when I kind of snuck him into teaching me Shorinji Kempo. It's a Japanese kung fu, basically. I said it would be an honor if he taught me, and you know how honor is with some of these Japanese, and he was old school, just like his dad, and gosh, I love the guy. 4 years of one-on-one training like that and it was more than just that. It was the whole philosophy, it was the way of health. He didn't talk about the bad stuff, but yeah, sake was always a curiosity to me. Of course, I don't drink, but then I started hearing people say, "No, this stuff is nasty, man. You don't want that." It's like, okay, I'm not missing out on anything. But I do like good sushi.
I've drank it. I like it. I've never tried it cold, and it's not my favorite drink. I like something sweet. I like my alcohol. I like my women. I like a sweet. It's got to be sweet. So
buttered rum.
And buttered rum.
That's the pirate in me.
So the last one we're going to talk about tonight, guys, and I'll be quick because I know we're almost to the 45-minute mark, is Egyptian beer. And this is another one. I just happened
to talk about this one.
Yes, I just happened to pick the two oldest forms of liquor around. You've got honey mead, and then you've got an Egyptian beer. And of course, this is made out of barley. You want to get back to the oldest beer ever made. This is it. This is your first beer. It's made from barley, so it's made from bread. And the Egyptians had this idea. We've got all these slaves working for us. And yeah, wheat beer, Lady Q. Yes, wheat beer. We've got all these slaves working for us. How do we keep them in line? And I guess they thought, well, we'll get them drunk every night. We'll get them drunk, and they'll pass out, and then they'll have to work the next day. And this will be their reward. At the end of the day, they get to drink and they get to relax. And it worked for a long time. It worked.
Well, there's a little bit more to that, because that goes with a bunch of different societies where you use a little bit of alcohol if you're going to work or you do heavy combat. It's the alcohol that breaks down into sugar, and it gives people an added strength. Plus, it inhibits parts of the brain that are going to be fearful or are going to be resistant. You become... Actually, it's why the Vikings, part of the reason why they were such formidable warriors. You drink a little bit, and man, you are ready to go.
And it keeps you warm.
Yeah, we talked about that. You're right.
Yep, guys. One of the craziest stories I ever heard was a Titanic story. You hear about stuff you see that movie, and that was a big thing for me. I used to always wonder, how did it happen and what happened, and I tried to put it together in my mind, and then I saw the movie, and I was like, But one of the cooks, survived in the water for like an hour and a half in the water. He should have froze to death in minutes. He should have lost his toes. He should have lost his fingers. And he should have never lasted for an hour and a half. We're talking hypothermia, frozen extremities, and death within minutes. And he survived an hour and a half. And the reason he did is he was so drunk, his blood would not freeze. His blood just kept flowing through his body because he had all that alcohol in it. And for
Plus,
an hour
his body
and a half,
was burning so much energy to keep it metabolized. He was probably like a little heater in there. All the fish would come up and say, "Ooh, this one's warm."
yes. Yes. And when I heard that, I said, man, I've got to start looking into this and start looking at, who used this for warmth, because there's so many different ideas behind this. You drink a little bit, you get warm. You can keep warm, keep from freezing to death.
Yeah, those St. Bernards in the Nordic countries, those were real. In Switzerland, where they had the St. Bernards with the barrels of rum around their neck to rescue people.
Yep. And this beer, Crimson Mist, I hate to argue with you, but this beer was in 10,000 BC.
Yep.
Alcoholic like liquor, yes, you are right. Because the 7,000 BC is when they started finding the rice and honey. And yes, but the beer goes even older than that. The beer, agricultural revolution in 10,000 BC, as fermentation was an accidental byproduct of the gathering of wild. It was an accident. It's like NutraSweet. They had absolutely no intention to make that shit. They were making a wood lacquer. And oh, it's sweet. And that's what you're drinking is artificial wood lacquer when you drink NutraSweet. Does that sound healthy to anybody?
A well-polished colon. It was brandy. I'm sorry. You guys corrected me. Thank you. Did we lose Loki?
Oh, what was brandy?
I said rum for but it was brandy in the barrels for the St. Bernards.
Yes, it was brandy. Yes, it was brandy. That reminds me, Highlander. We were just talking Highlander the other day. He has that old bottle. He pulls it out. He's like, 1492. He's like, brandy. He starts smelling it, and you're like, damn, he's got a 500-year-old bottle of brandy there. Trey Stribbles. Someone's throwing out Trey Stribbles, and of course it would be Trey. Yes, please subscribe to Dr. and author Adega Outlaw. But yeah, they were partying. They were partying in Egypt, and they were building, and this is how they kept their machine running. They got them drunk, they got them happy, they got them celebrating, and then they started all over again every day. And if you are keeping up with us on our Farscape watch, there is a episode called Tomorrow's a Rest Day. And basically, it's a planet full of workers, and every day tomorrow is a rest day, and they party at the end of the day. They're like, and then they wake up and they have to go to work again that next morning. But at the end of every day, the next day's a rest day. So it's like they're hypnotized by this thing that's going on, and they think we're going to party and then have a day off, but they don't. They just have to go back to work again, and it's like, okay, work your ass off because tomorrow's a rest day. And then they party and wake up, and the same shit happens over and over again. Anyway, guys, thank you so very much. Thank you all so very much for being here today. Thank you, Adega. This has been
this was fun.
This is the funnest. Yes, it's fun. I think this is the funnest one we've had. I absolutely love talking alcohol, and we got to talk more stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff we can talk about. And if you want to keep talking about gods, we can keep talking about ancient gods, or we can move on to something else. It does not matter to me.
You are the boss.
Oh, shit. No, dude. We're in this together. We're in this together on Thursday nights. I'm not letting you go. It ain't happening. Chris Burgess says, thank you, Loki and Adega. Katie Star says plus $5. RR says cheers. Purple Lady says have a great night, everybody. Lady Miss says take care. Guys, have a great one. We will catch you all tomorrow morning, and it will be the end of the week. Man, this
Goes
week,
fast.
this week has gone by fast. Everybody have a great night. Have a great time, and we'll catch you later.
Let's go harass Trey.
Yes, let's go harass Trey. Everybody go harass Trey. Go get him.